So I just wanted to give you guys an update on why I haven't had too many updates recently. Actually, none. I have a lot of video that I need to record, but if I want to just take a minute to talk about this. So I have these two Seagate external drives. They're 3 terabytes each. And the long story summarized is they started to fail. So I didn't notice it was failing until I tried to copy a file from my Mac over to my PC over the network. It was a video file. I went to go play it, and it started locking up the video player at the same scene in the video. So I thought it was something with the file. I check it on the Mac. Nope, the file's just fine. I copy it over a flash drive. It's just fine. It's only when I transferred over the network to my external drives, which led me to think that there was something wrong. And sure enough, I ran the C tools on there, and I have been dealing with this now for almost a month. So one of my drives, it just completely died. After I started to copy the data off of it, I got about 250 gigs of 2.7 terabytes, and then it just died. I actually had a head crash, and the things that I had to do to get it to work. For a while, my PC would mount it, and I could copy the data to the replacement, which is actually this one over here. You see it actually says refurbished. It's a refurbished unit. That was the one that Seagate sent me to replace it, and I just mad dash try to copy data to it. Well, as I was trying to do so, the hard drive, my computer, it kept locking my computer up. So then I switched over to the Mac, shared it over the network, and then I was doing it that way. Inherently, I'm on a gigabit network connection here, but it just slows everything down, especially when you're dealing with terabytes. So it slowed everything down, and it was taking forever. And then after a while, that stopped working, and the Mac would just say, hey, there's a problem with this drive. You need to back up the data now, which was great because that's what I was trying to do, but I couldn't do it because it wouldn't mount the drive. So then I had a box over there in the corner. Don't mind the mess. I was still trying to sort some things out in my office. I had a spare machine sitting on the floor, and I used Ubuntu on that. I think it was I guess it was 14.04. Maybe it was 14.10. Anyway, I was using that, and that worked great because what was happening is the drive would unmount, and then you'd hear it spool back up again, and then it would mount it again. The Windows PC just no. It would lock the whole system up. You try to open the file browser or Explorer, and it would just sit there, and the system wouldn't do anything until you unplugged it. Right? So I went ahead and unplugged it, and then the system was back to normal. Well, I knew I couldn't do it on that. So anyway, I had this Linux box sitting on the floor. I had it shared, and it would dismount and remount, dismount and remount, dismount and remount. And having the drive mapped, I was able to copy the data. Anyway, so I had to go between my PC, my Mac, the Linux box, and even my netbook. For a while, I was running it off my netbook. I mean, it's not. This is. I want to say it's this. It's an Acer Aspire 1 D250. It's when they first came out with the Acer Aspires. They had kind of like a rounded edges. This is the cleaner look that they had. I mean, this notebook their netbook, I should say, is very old, but it still serves its purpose. And it's going to serve its purpose now, because after getting as much data as I could, hard drive crashed, I backed it up to this guy. And I'm thinking, that's great. Well, it's a refurbished drive. I checked the smart status on it, because Ubuntu does a pretty good job of displaying things in a pretty readable way. And it was telling me that this drive has already been awake for almost a year and a half. And it tripped the temperature threshold by exceeding its temperature, I think it was like 56 degrees Celsius. And it was mechanically, it was louder than its counterpart. This was the original one that I bought a while ago. So I mean, they're the same model, but the one here is much quieter than this one. And it was so loud. And over the course of time, it actually got quieter, which is very strange. But I'm wondering if it got away with that by actually slowing the drive down. Anyway, so I thought, hey, my original drive is still good. They've always been on a battery backup. Though, even though with the software, they don't go to sleep as they should. Another thing I discovered is these drives, what are they called? The Backup Desk Plus. Though they look nice, man, they are terrible at staying cool. They got so hot. And when I was trying to copy all the data, these drives, I would use several applications. I was using SpeedFan for a while. Specky's, I think, more straightforward. But these temperatures would just go way past the maximum that Specky recommended. Anyway, and they were always in the red. I had fans sitting on them to help cool them down. Well, anyway, so the replacement drive was okay. It was loud. They got hot. They both did. I just noticed that. But then I started to notice maybe performance. You know, the system was, you know, this computer, it's a system that's overclocked. It's 48. It's a i7 4820K quad core, overclocked to 4.5 gigahertz. I got 16 gigs of DDR3, and it's got a 250 gig Samsung 840 EVO drive in it. It's generally fast, but when that drive was connected, I mean, strange things were happening. It was slow boot up time, but it wasn't even consistent. Sometimes it would be slow, sometimes it would be really slow, and then you check up the startup. In Windows 8, you can check the startup tab on the task manager, and the timing that would tell you how long it would post or boot up. I mean, it'd go from 20 seconds to 1,000 something. I mean, it was crazy. I don't know why it was doing that. Anyway, so this drive started acting strange. So then I thought, let me run the C-Tools. And when you get drives this big, the C-Tools take a while. So I ran the Seagate C-Tools, and sure enough, it failed the long test. Gives you an error code. You send it off to Seagate, and this is where we ran into another problem, because they said, hey, we see that the drive failed. We just sent you that one. No problem. We'll send you a replacement. We don't have any refurbished versions of your drive, which I thought was great, because I didn't want a refurbished drive. Obviously, I got this, and in less than a month, it died again. So I wanted a new drive. And the gentleman said, hey, we don't have those. So after talking with them for a while, Seagate really came through. I mean, I told them what I went through and how much data I lost, and it was a lot of important stuff. I have probably another 3 or 4 months ahead of me, because the stuff that I lost was family photos, videos, I mean, stuff that goes back 10, 15 years. You know, I had backups and backups and backups. Underneath here, this whole box is full of hard drives, and a lot of that stuff, you can't really see it from here, but I mean, this is almost up to here, full of hard drives. A lot of that stuff got backed up to there. Some of those drives don't even power up anymore. So, I mean, just the magnitude of the failure really, really just bummed me out. And here's the other thing. Then you ask yourself, well, hey, why didn't you have a backup of your backup? Well, this one was supposed to be my primary. This one was supposed to be my backup. I mean, obviously I can't really tell because they're identical right now, but just for the sake of argument, let's say this one was my primary. That's my backup. And those were supposed to clone, okay? Well, by the time I got 6 terabytes total of space, before I got these two drives, I was filling this one up. So when I got this one, instead of making an immediate copy or sorting through everything I had here, I started filling this one up. So now these two drives weren't exactly identical. Some of the folders were, but there was a lot of new data on the other drive. So when that second drive died, I lost a lot. And I thought my saving grace was going to be my cloud backup, because I do use CrashPlan. Well, this is where you really need to be on top of things. Unfortunately, my CrashPlan account had a debit card tied to it that expired. And it's completely my fault, because I was getting the messages saying, hey, your debit card has expired, please update your payment info. And it's, you know, you get them once a month, and I just I saw it. I'm like, oh man, it's going to take me 5 minutes. Why don't I just do that? But I didn't. And so over the course of time, I think I got like 5 notices. You know, as you started going forward, I think they started sending more and more. But anyway, I got more than one, which is really all you need, right? They told me, you know, hey, your payment information is not updated and your account is essentially canceled. So I'm like, oh man, I got to go back in there. Well, part of canceling your account is they delete all of your data. So the only backup that I had of all my iPhoto library that was off the Mac, all the photos or videos and things that I offloaded from my card reader to the drives directly, everything that was stored in there, my work, because I used to have a little portable. I still, this one's one of them, my 1 terabyte there on the top. Anything that I did at work, because I did a lot of batch programs, anything that I created, any packages that I made, that was all backed up to that. And so I lost all of that. And I thought, man, my backup in the cloud will be fine. And then I remembered, oh wait, that's right, they deleted everything. So my backup for the backup, the single point of failure here is me. I lost my backup to the backup. My cloud backup is gone. My secondary backup, which should have been this drive, is failing. And so, or I should say did fail. And then the replacement for that drive is failing. And so luckily my other drive still works, but it's almost full. It's unusable. It's only got 30 gigs free. And everything else is just, it's full. So I needed to replace both drives right away. Like I said, they weren't, it wasn't a symmetrical backup. They weren't the same. So I thought, man, this is a tough situation. I explained all of this to several people at Seagate. God bless them. I went through, sent some emails, I called them to follow up, and this is what they did for me. They sent me to, let's see if I can turn this light on. Plug it in real quick. I usually like to keep all this nice and neat, but whatever. Since I've been working with this, they sent me 2 3 terabytes drives, just like I had before, same capacity, but their new V2 version of their Desktop Plus drives. They come in this really fine piano, you know, and I just dusted everything, but they come in this piano black finish. I still have the plastic on it. Not in the mood to take it off right now, but you can see here that it has a lot more ventilation holes, and this goes all the way to the bottom. You know, they have a good spacer. They're stackable. The ones that I had before, the ventilation only comes up to here and the top. The front and the sides, it's all you know, thick plastic. So it would make sense that, you know, you have your vent holes here, heat rises, right? You want it to go to the top, but there's just not enough circulation. These drives overheat so bad, and performance and copying just drops when those drives get real hot. So as a matter of fact, I actually had this USB fan sitting on top of them. They're cooling these drives now because guess what? These new drives actually get hot too. And you may say to yourself, well, why don't you have them you know, separated or spaced out? Well, that's fine. According to the gentleman at Seagate, these are supposed to be stackable. And there's a sufficient gap, you can see there. You know, there's a sufficient gap there that's supposed to allow for some decent airflow. But these suffer the same thing. Not as much as these, but these do get hot. You check the smart status. I use Specky for that now. These drives will get warm. You start to use them. Now, here's the thing. As they are, these drives, as they're sitting there idle, no problem. I think it's like 40, you know what? Why don't we check? Here, let's wake this guy back up. Why don't we check? Do I even have Specky running now? Let's see what their temperatures are at now. They should be sitting there at idle. I've been having some problems with the Seagate dashboard software. It's very slow to respond. Here, there you go. Those last 2 drives are my externals, and you can see the temperature difference. These other drives I have, they're just a bunch of old SATA drives. Some of them are the USB. I got a 1 terabyte and a 500 gig stacked on top of each other. I actually had it the other way around, so it was like an all black look. But that 1 terabyte, man, that gets hot. So when I started, because I have quite a bit of data on that, it got so hot. So I had to put this fan back on. And when I do a lot of work and I have a lot of data to move, that's when these drives start to heat up. If it's just a quick write, couple gigs, whatever, the temperatures are fine. But when you're pushing hundreds of gigs through these things will overheat. They do a better job than those did, but you know they are going to get hot. One of the other things I noticed too, this version V2, I don't have the box. It's in the closet. Don't feel like getting it out. These drives are originally 7,200 RPM. These are 5,900, and I thought, man, that's obviously that's the slower drive. It's more power conscious. It's probably going to help with the heat, and that's probably why they picked those drives. I was reading online, somebody cracked these drives open, and you know they're desktop class hard drives, which they say up and down they're great. And that's all fine and dandy, but when I read that it was a 5,900 RPM drive, I'm like, great, performance has been impacted. It's a USB 3 external, but they gimped it with the 5,900 RPM. In my test, I say test, it's more like real world application because I'm copying all this data. That is not the case at all. These drives are not slow by any means. They are actually faster than these. I would get 140 megabytes per second coming off of those, USB 3. And these running through my Amazon hub, which I bought specifically for this new setup, I get about 150, maybe 160 megabytes per second in file transfers. So speed is up, even though, or I should say throughput is up, even though rotation speed of the drive is down. And the temperatures are much more manageable. They'll jump up to about 55, 56, and that's when it starts to warn that, hey, your drives are getting hot because it's 55, I think is the upper limit. So anyway, Seagate, just a big thank you for working with me to get these drives to replace these drives. You know, they couldn't do anything with the loss of data, but I think because of how I spread everything out, I have those other drives in there, you can kind of see them. I had data all over the place. So, you know, I think I have the important things. Time will tell. I have a lot of sorting to do, but this project here has been really what's been keeping me from editing videos and posting new things on YouTube, because just the magnitude of data, I mean, years worth of documents and pictures and you name it, any kind of file type was on these drives. And I considered getting a NAS device, you know, for an extra layer of protection, but you know, I've already invested a couple $100 in getting 2 of these drives, and logically speaking, you'd think, hey, 2 drives, redundant backup plus cloud backup, you should be at least at a good point. Obviously, you want an offsite backup. You want cold storage, you want a drive that you back up once a week or whatever time interval you want, and then you just store it somewhere, you know, preferably not in the same premises as the original data. I know you can go all kinds of crazy ways with data backup, but it's just really been recovery mode, trying to get these drives on awake again. And so, actually now, it's been a month. I've been working with transferring data and making sure I had copies, identical copies, because oddly enough, when I would copy the files over from these to the new ones, it has to be user error because there's so many folders and so many documents and just so much data that when I started to transfer the files and I thought I had a copy, because I was paranoid, I would go back and double check with, you know, I use Free File Sync. I was using rsync and GRSync and Lucky Backup. I have this drive dual booting from Windows to Ubuntu. You know, I was using Free File Sync. So I would, and SyncToy, trying to make sure, first of all, SyncToy, geez, it's a great thing for small folders, but when you're dealing with a lot of data, in some cases it took over a day just to compare two folders. But anyway, I was using all these different applications and I was getting different results. One application would say, hey, you don't have access to this folder. SyncToy would have access to the folder. And so then I ran into permissions issues. And so then I would have to plug it up to the Mac, and then I would run Free File Sync on that, and then I would go back and forth, back and forth. But then as the drive started to act up, then I couldn't do a straight comparison on the Mac because it wouldn't mount the drive. Then the PC, now, the refurbished drive, it just doesn't want to mount it. So the only computer that I have now that I can use to mount it for both of them is actually the netbook, because it's also running Ubuntu, and Ubuntu doesn't care. It just mounts it. So, but I only got 2 gigs of RAM, and actually I had application crashes. So, long story. I know I've already ranted for over 20 minutes about this. But here's the deal. It's finally done. The 2 drives, as much data, I think I have everything. I ran through several layers, several scans. I've actually spent the last 3 hours, almost 4 hours, just double checking to make sure that I had every bit of data that I could. Every found.000 whatever folder, anything in the trash folders, anything that I could get into, I think I have backed up. And you may ask yourself, why do you need all those extra things? Obviously, if you felt like they needed to be thrown away, they go to the garbage. Here's the thing. Right now, I'm scavenging for data. So if I had a folder in my iPhoto library that's corrupted or gone, but those pictures were, I copied it to my desktop, then copied it to iPhoto, and then deleted the copy, then that copy would be in the recycle bin or the trash or whatever. So I may be able to pull things out from different locations. That's where I'm at. Anyway, I ranted on long enough. Here we are. The 2 drives are connected to my netbook. I'm going to do a wipe. They're going to go back in their original boxes that I got them. I saved the boxes. I'm that kind of person. They're going to go back to Seagate. I'm never going to see this again. My cloud backup is set. It's been backing up for everything that I've been working with has been backing up. So I got about 2-point-something terabytes already up in the cloud. I think I'm done. I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to wipe these drives, pack them up, call it a day. As soon as I can get myself in a comfortable place with this machine and with all my data, then I'm going to start again editing my videos for the Z and some other things and posting them online. So just wanted to take a minute, let everybody know where we're at, and yeah, thanks for watching.